Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and thank you very much for making some time out of your day to spend with me on the video. Really appreciate that. Today guys, I want to talk about how competitive tournament bass fishing and maybe even just recreational bass fishing has really went down the tubes since 2007. There's been a lot of different reasons for that. We've never recovered prior to the 2007 sort of the peak of it, and a lot of you guys out there that were not around prior to 2007 don't really have anything to compare it to, but guys, it is night and day, and it's really sad to see what's happened, and I want to give you guys my opinion on this and sort of point out some of the things that have happened, because I think a lot of people aren't really aware of that, and be curious to get your guys' feedback on that as well. Real quick guys, before we get started, I just want to show you something here that you might be interested in. These are my Blaukat throwback jigs made by Cumberland Pro Lures. They just got on the bestseller list at Tackle Warehouse last month. And I want to show you my two favorite for this time of year. Guys, right now in January, if you guys are interested, I'll put my Tackle Warehouse link in the description and you can order them there. Get you some solid brown and put a green pumpkin chunk on it. Fish this thing around any type of channel banks, bluff banks in the wintertime in January. And when February and March rolls around, this is the one you want right here. It's the brown with the orange in it with a green trailer. This is a really good color for February and March during that pre-spawn period when the water's in the upper 40s and 50s. Same deal, fishing around bluffy banks and channel banks, but they love that brown and orange starting about February there. So put the link in the description for that. Excuse me, guys. Okay, let's talk a little bit about this, what's happened. Bass fishing on the competitive scene has literally went down the toilet since 2007. Now, let me sort of give you guys a little history lesson on the sport here, what's happened, and then you can sort of understand what I'm getting ready to say here. I started fishing Bassmaster in 1985-86 season, and I fished with bass up until 2005 when I had to make a decision to switch over to the FLW tour because I was forced to through some sponsor regulations. In other words, some of my sponsors wouldn't allow me to do the things that were required to fish on the Elite Series as far as like advertising tobacco and alcohol. I couldn't do that with my sponsor contract. So I fished Bassmaster up until 2005 full time on the top 150, top 100 circuit, Elite 50 circuit, all that. Okay, and the FLW tour since 1997. Now, from about the time I started, from the mid-80s up until 2007, it was getting better every single year. It's like the payouts got better, entry fees were reasonable, the opportunities were greater, it was really easy to obtain quality sponsorships. And when I'm talking quality sponsorships, I'm talking about sponsorships that were approaching six-figure deals during the height of all this. Now, the height of all of it was from about 1998 to like 2005 was like the premium time with that. When FLW and Bass were sort of competing against each other. And when Walmart came on the scene through FLW as a sponsor with FLW, it really upped the ante in terms of the payouts went super high, $1 million payouts in several of the tournaments. You could make a good living at it. Really, you could make a good living from sponsorships and from winnings. It was just a great time to be in the sport. And you guys that were there know what I'm talking about. It was like if you performed at a decent level or even a high level, you could make a good living in fishing. I'm talking a good living equal to like a successful dentist or something like that, or even a doctor if you were at the top level. Okay, now what happened, how everything sort of went down the tube, and then the residual effects from it is when we had the stock market crash in 2008, literally overnight, everybody in the professional fishing industry lost almost everything. In September of 2008, when that stock market crashed, within the next month, every single pro angler I know, including myself, lost between 50 to 100% of their sponsor revenue. That's the first thing those companies did, was cut their marketing budgets, when the stock market crashed. And the same with the tournament organizations, they lost a lot of big sponsorships as well. So that went on for a couple of years, and the economy started to improve. Starting in about 2008, we started to see an improvement in the economy, and it got stronger and stronger and stronger. But the fishing industry did not keep pace with that. It's like, even though our economy was getting stronger every single quarter, the tournament organizations and the tournament industry as a whole did not acknowledge that. So what happened, for example, is like if you were a professional angler and you got a call from one of your big sponsors and say, okay, man, we're going to have to, instead of paying you $50,000 a year, we're just going to give you some free product, or, we're going to have to cut your salary in half. Now, and that's what they did. But when the economy started to recover back to the levels it was prior to the crash, those same companies did not begin the same compensation they had before the crash, because what they did is they thought, okay, so Joe, pro angler over here, we know he's going to take 50% less because he has for the last 2 years, or we know he's just going to do this now for free product. We don't have to pay him any money, and they didn't do it. They never started doing it again, and that is what happened to a large degree, because they found out that they didn't have to, and as a result, all the sponsorship pie was basically relegated to the top 1% of the tournament anglers. They hogged up all the pie in the sponsorship endemic side pretty much. Everybody else was fighting for crumbs, that's sort of the way it is today within the endemic part of the sport. Now, another thing that's happened with that since 2007 is we've had an influx of very poor management in the major tournament organizations. The decision-making processes that they have had since 2007 have continually got worse and worse. They've made poor decisions on a lot of different fronts that hasn't served the industry, at all. And on top of that, there became more and more anglers, there become more and more tournaments, it became more and more competitive, and when you have more people trying to get into the tournament realm, it makes it tougher for everybody. It makes it tougher for the tournament organizations to gain meaningful sponsorship. It's tougher on the tournament anglers to get sponsorship. It got tougher and tougher, and as a result, our payouts right now in 2025, the professional fishing payouts, like on the Bassmaster and FLW Tour, are half of what they were prior to 2007. Now, you tell me how this makes sense. It's like all the cost of living and the adjustments that they make in that it's seen throughout every part of our economy and every part of our business sector, except in professional fishing. How in the world is every leading economic indicator higher now than it was, say, in 2002, yet professional fishing has half of the payout that they did back then? Literally, I think the total payouts, I can't remember what it was. It was like, it's like double. Anyway, the payouts were double back in the early 2000s compared to what they are now, and the entry fees were half the much. So we were paying 50% less for entry fees 20 years ago, and we were fishing for twice the money 20 years ago. Something does not equate. There's some money grubbing, greedy stuff going on, or there's some people that do not understand how to market those organizations that are in positions of power. It's one of the two. So now we have a situation where it costs more than ever to fish. The bass boats are over twice as expensive. The entry fees are over twice as expensive. Everything about fishing is twice as expensive. The competition is tougher than it's ever been before, and now we're having this intrusion of technology within our sports that is undermining the very root and the very principle of what competitive fishing is. Everything has just literally went down the toilet since 2008. I mean, it really has. So what can you do about it? I mean, what's the answer to this? The answer to it is what people do not want to do. The only way that this sport is going to get back to the level that it was before is, number one, you can't have that many tournaments. The industry simply cannot support as many tournament circuits as they have. That is the number one thing with it. The two thing that goes with that is until we get people in positions of power within the tournament organizations that actually have the future of the sport in mind, rather than over their own profit margins, it's never going to get any better. And that's been the intrinsic problem that we've had in professional fishing, is that the tournament organizations have always been for-profit organizations. And until we have somebody emerge that can turn Bassmaster or whatever into a nonprofit, where actually the anglers, own the organizations, it's never going to get any better. The money part of it is never ever going to get any better. And then finally, technology is ruining the sport. You guys hear me talk about it every day on the channel here, but I'm going to keep talking about it because our sport is not better off in 2025 than it was in 2004, prior to all this forward-facing sonar crap. Technology has been a driving force in not only increasing the cost of the sport, but it's completely changed the landscape of it. And everything that was considered special and sacred and valuable in the sport is being replaced by video game fishing. And I know you don't want to hear it. Most people don't want to hear it. It's like beating a dead horse, but that is the reality of the situation. So if we would dial back technology to like the 2004 levels, if we would reduce the number of tournament anglers and the number of tournaments, if we would get people in positions of power within those tournament organizations that legitimately had the future of the sport and the future of the tournament anglers' best interest in their own minds, you would see a return to that. But unfortunately, it's just like in politics. We do not have our best and brightest people in politics. We have, it's the same, there's so many aspects of life that we see people in positions of power that they really don't deserve to be there. They really don't. There's a lot that would be better served with people out there that had higher ideals and did not have such narcissistic, self-serving behaviors with them. So anyway, guys, if it's hard to explain unless you guys were around back in the late 90s and early 2000s. It's really hard to explain. But all you guys that were there, tournament anglers, people that were involved in the industry, you guys know what I'm talking about. You've seen the decline in it, and it's something that didn't have to happen. It happened out of greed. It happened out of apathy. It happened out of ignorance. A lot of different factors that went into it. But we have dug ourselves a hole big time right now. And the only way that we're going to get out of that hole is to keep bringing it to the surface and keep acknowledging the problem and, keep trying to do something to fix it. But right now, this industry is a rudderless ship right now. There's not any true leader in the sport of competitive fishing right now. Bassmaster has failed everybody. MLF has not done the right thing for the most part. I will acknowledge the MLF, their best thing that they do is the BFL circuit. They have done an exemplary job with the BFL circuit and the Toyota series, not so much with the Bass Pro Tour. But I've just pretty much lost all faith in Bassmaster. The management over there has proven that they are just inept and incapable of, taking care of the sport and looking out for the best interests of the sport. So anyway, guys, let me know what y'all think about that, and we'll talk later. See you.